You know, there have been times in my life where I've gotten away from the Lord and I felt Him saying to me, Dan, it's time to grow up. Grow up and be like a child. You're saying, what? Well, I'm going to explain in our morning cup of inspiration. There was a time when some of the disciples asked Jesus, who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? You know, I want to be, and I want to be. And I feel like Jesus was just saying to them, will you grow up and have the faith of a child? In fact, in Matthew 18, you can read about it. Matthew's the first chapter in the New Testament, verse 1. I'm reading from the New International Version of the Bible. It says, at that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? He called a little child and had him stand among them. And he said, I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And there are times in my life when I felt like I was the closest to God when I was a child. When I was 9 years old and I was at a church camp and we had a service that evening, and the preacher had us come down to the altar if we wanted to accept Jesus into our hearts, and I did. And I remember walking back to my cabin that night, looking up and seeing the stars and just saying, I know you're there and I want to serve you. And God never forgot that prayer. Yes, I failed the Lord so many times. I got so far away from the Lord, I couldn't even feel His presence at one time in my life. But He brought me back. And I have to go back to that faith of a child and saying, God, I don't understand everything. I can't explain everything, but I trust you. You know, I've had some comments. People have said to me that they're mad at God because He didn't answer their prayers the way they wanted. And why didn't He? And I want to say, grow up and be like a child. Trust Him. There's so much we don't know. His ways are so far above our ways. And I want to read you one more passage. Isaiah in the Old Testament, chapter 29, verse 16. You turn things upside down as if the potter were thought to be like the clay. Shall what is formed say to him who formed it, he did not make me? Can the pot say of the potter, he knows nothing? So remember, God made you. He knows you. He knows what's best. He wants us to come to Him like a little child. When we humble ourselves like a child, then we are great in the kingdom of heaven. I hope this helps you today. God bless you. Thank you for your prayers. I'm feeling better. I'm on the mend. And I'll see you soon for another morning cup of inspiration.